Alright, as per usual, check out this video, the Heimdall video, to enter my giveaway of 2 Dazzler passes. To enter, subscribe, and comment your Mcoc New Year's resolution. But also remember that whenever you subscribe, you add to something else, which is my February bonus giveaway, because every 1,000 subs I gain in January, I am giving away +1 Dazzler pass on February 1st. So yeah, current count is 15.8 thousand, so let's just keep that ball rolling. And I'm a bit nervous for this video. So today we have a top 10 cosmic list, because I really want to expand into the guides and the resource part of an Mcoc YouTube channel. It's been really fun doing the gameplay videos and just the crystal openings, but now I want to kind of branch out and see what I can do and see if y'all enjoy different types of content. And I'm going to start with a top 10 cosmic list. Now, before I get started here, a quick disclaimer. This is all my opinion, right? I tried to get some second opinions, but in the end, I do call the final shots. And additionally, I am making this before Deathless Thanos is out, and if I were to judge him based on the deep dive, I would probably give him second place. So yeah, I might update it once a month and he'll be in the next one, but I do want to get started here. And first things first, this is just a general top 10. It's not a battlegrounds only or a questing only. I'm trying to fit everything in here because my audience, we're at 15,000 subs. It varies, right? There's some Valiant players, there's some newly Thronebreaker players. I gotta try to get everyone, right? And so I have this section here because this is a top 10 cosmic 7-star list. But here's the thing, if you're still 6-star focused, these are your priorities: Hercules, Hulkling, CGR, and Gallon. With how much easier it is to rank up 6-star characters, you need to hyper focus those resources on these champions. If I were to make a top 10 overall cosmic list, there is a genuine case that these are the top 4. Including the 7-star champions, it would be these guys at the top 4. Because these guys are all so powerful to the point where they will never be 7-star champions because they are too good. Maybe we see 7-star Gallon, but besides that, these guys are just incredible champions that will carry you even at 6 stars in any piece of content, in Alliance War, in Battlegrounds, and questing especially Hercules. So yeah, I think number 1 is Hercules, number 2 is Hulkling, number 3 is CGR, and number 4 is Gallon for the 6-star version of this list. But they're all worth ascending, they're all worth maxing out, and they will all do tremendous things for you. And here is why. So first, Gallon, he is just a very, very solid champion when it comes to dealing direct damage, and direct damage is one of the rarest damage forms in the game, so having access to that is very, very solid for multiple nodes and matchups. He also has immunity to Power Burn, Nullify, some very oddball immunities that are very helpful for some very tough defenders, such as Penny Parker, who is having a resurgence as it stands right now. Additionally, he makes very quick work of those tech defenders with armor ups and just any armor up nodes in general. So yeah, he is a great champion to have as a general quester and just someone that targets those pesky tech defenders. Now you have CGR, who is one of the craziest damage dealers in the game. Very good for a majority of matchups in Mcoc because his damage output is just that strong. Great for short fights, great for long fights with his crazy eternal whatever it's called rotation, where you can get 6 furies, no, 6 aptitudes or something. So yeah, just a very strong DPS, can take a lot of matchups because of his raw damage output, and is very sneaky but good power control. Pair that with some good immunities and some reliable armor break, and you have an absolute stud of a champion. Then you have Hulkling, who is just a great all-around character. Same thing with CGR, just has so much damage output to the point where it makes him insanely versatile for some of the toughest defenders in this game. Now the scary thing is for Hulkling, the fact that, like, you know, we have 7-star rank 4s now, he might not be able to burst any champion down in that one SP2 rotation, but he will still do very good versus rank 3s as it stands. He has great immunities. He's immune to poison and a lot of power control things. He does have access to unblockable. He has access to pierce, which is really rare and really helpful versus future Ant-Man. He also just has very straightforward damage and is very easy to play as well. And yeah, that damage output is just incredible. But last but not least, we have Hercules, who is just the best champion in the game for a majority of like people and a majority of content. He has immortality, he has access to like very solid damage, he's recall masteries friendly, he has true sense, he has access to unblockable, stun immunity, but the thing with Hercules is that just crazy immortality that lets him just like survive the craziest scenarios imaginable and just save you so many revives and potions. He is the absolute like best potion saver, the best revive saver. He will just do so much for your account if you are progressing, and even if you're not progressing, he still has uses in Alliance War, in Alliance Quest, in Battlegrounds even. And yeah, his raw damage output, his increased power gain that makes it easier to get to that crazy damage output, it just makes Hercules this very broken character that is so worth investing if you need that help. So yeah, these are my best 6 stars to focus on. But now let's talk about the 7-star champions. So first we have the honorable mentions, and first up is Maestro, who has defense, and immunities. So yeah, this man is just a defense merchant. He was designed for defense, he excels at defense, and I put him in the mentions because I feel like this list is more focused towards like the attacker side, but then again, he deserves a mention just because he is that good on defense for the most part, and he also does have some pretty strong utility since his immunity set is one of the rarest in the game. Additionally, yeah, he is just a very good investment if you need some help in Battlegrounds especially, and Alliance War where he can do some stuff as a defender and on Path 9 as well. He is immune to poison, incinerate, and shock, which is a great set for Hazard Shift in Alliance War. He has super class advantage versus tech characters, so he can take like future Ant-Man very well, and like some other tech champions too. Just a very safe champion overall with the glancing as well, and on defense he has the glancing, he has the pierce, the radiation, that all pairs together to make him very menacing, especially versus a champion that doesn't counter him. But with the right counters, he is getting easier and easier by the second, so I don't feel like he will have a ton of value as time goes on, but as it stands right now, still not the worst investment, I feel like. Trappy, my man, I am sorry, but this isn't a Battlegrounds only list. If it was Battlegrounds only, this man is top 5, but I have to factor in a lot of things, and I feel like outside of Battlegrounds, the lights are a bit too bright for Nova, but in Battlegrounds, this man is absolutely, like, he is a stud. He is good for countering Bullseye. Like, multiple defenders, he is very good at countering, like Atuma, for example. And, like, he has a lot of matchups that you wouldn't think he'd be good for, but he surprisingly is pretty good for those matchups. He has access to True Strike. He has access to non-contact mediums, which is very helpful versus like Korg and Atuma, like I just mentioned. He has very quick damage output, especially if you like know what you're doing and like you just do the spam dashback method. So yeah, like overall, very like solid when it comes to countering some meta defenders in Battlegrounds. I feel like he is not the best outside of that. Like in current questing scenarios, the demand for like specific abilities in like the nodes, for example, I feel like he just hardly ever is an option or like a solution. In modes like Alliance War, I feel like the nodes pretty much get to him very easily, so you don't see him like there too often. Additionally, even in like Battlegrounds, the nodes can very easily stop this champion, which is why he hasn't really been too popular as of recently. So I think that Nova is a very good champion with very good potential on both attack and defense, but as it stands right now, I feel like he's a bit too easy to counter, and we just like haven't seen him cook as of recently because of that, but still can do a lot when he's given the opportunity. Final mention is Superior Iron Man. He has amazing all-around damage, good immunities, and some pretty good cosmic tropes. Now, Superior Iron Man is a very interesting one. While he isn't like super utility packed, he does like have some good immunities. It's like, I believe, Incinerate, Shock, and Bleed resistance per buff on him, which he stacks up very easily, which leads to the cosmic tropes part. This man has a ton of buffs, like a comical amount of buffs, and like he will maintain those very, very easily. So he does have those like cosmic demands. He also has very good damage with armor breaks. He has some niche utility, like having access to parrying non-contact hits. So like against Shuri, it's very straightforward. So like he does have those things in his kit, but I think the biggest draw for this champion is that amazing all-around damage. It's very good in short fights, and in the longer fights, it is just comically strong. And I feel like this champion is so good because he just like can take any health pool. But the one thing that kind of draws me away from him is the fact that like he doesn't necessarily like have the most general utility, and that sometimes can hurt him. But in other times, like he just has enough damage to overpower a lot of matchups, which sometimes is all you need, right? So yeah, overall, very good character, really fun to play, and I feel like he was designed for fun, and that mark was definitely hit. And I feel like some other marks are hit as well, because this man is just a powerhouse when it comes to damage. But now we have the actual top 10, and we're starting with a champion that just like deserves her flowers, and this is Angela. She is just the queen of utility, like straight up. She is just so strong utility wise. She also has some pretty good damage output, but let me tell you her utility real quick. She has resistance to nullify, auto block, and any damage over time debuff in the game. She has access to armor break. She can parry non-contact hits. She has very, very solid damage output, like I said, has increased crit rate, has some crazy interactions with like incursions nodes, and just any like buff enhancing nodes in general. She is just such an all-around beast of a champion that's good for so many different game modes, depending on the Sig investment though, because if she is max Sig, then she's good for like so many different lanes in Alliance War. Like for example, Hazard Shift, she is incredible for if she is like fully invested into. And like that's the one drawback of this champion maybe, because she is a very rare character, and that makes it even harder to get her, let alone invest so much into her. But once she's invested into, she's great for Alliance War, she's great for general questing, incursions as well. She is a pretty solid Battlegrounds character, but the one drawback of this champion, and the reason why she isn't higher given like her crazy utility, is the fact that she maybe isn't the best at like anything, but she's just good for kind of everything, right? And in like 2025, I feel like you want champions that are just like the absolute best at something, and I struggle to find something that Angela is like genuinely the best at, and I feel like she is more just good at a lot of things. And honestly, like that's still very solid, and that's why she has a spot on this list. So yeah, Angela, very good character, and yeah, do not underestimate her, that's for sure. But now we have number 9, and number 9 is Hyperion, who has loads of damage, is very easy to play, and has a lot of different damage sources. Now these are my 3 big takeaways of this character, because he does have a lot of damage output, right? Especially with that Gamora relic, which helps increase his Fury ability accuracy. But yeah, his damage output can just be absolutely crazy if you get those crits. And if you get one more thing, which is kind of a drawback of this champion, but more on that later, he has different damage sources as well. I've seen a lot of Hyperion players like try to get around some nodes by using the SP1 and using the Incinerate as a damage source, which is usually very successful. And yeah, he's just easy to play. You spam heavy attack, you do your damage, you have access to poison immunity and armor breaks, as well as constant power gain. And yeah, just a very solid champion for that reason. Very simple but effective. However, the reason he is not higher is because there is always that RNG factor with this character. Sometimes you can have the craziest fight that feels like cheating, but the other like scenario is you just have an absolute like dry matchup with him because his RNG like comes back to bite him. So for that reason, I think he is a very solid champion. I think that if he is like at his best, he is genuinely like a top 5 cosmic, but it's that RNG balance that puts him still in the top 10, but not quite like top 5. And speaking of like, I don't want to say not reliable, but speaking of, you know, just like high risk, which I didn't really speak about with Hyperion, so I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, we have number 8, which is Adam Warlock, who is high risk and reward, loads of utility, and just A+ damage output. So let's dissect this a bit. We'll start with the utility. This man is like jam-packed with utility. He has access to true damage, which is one of the most underappreciated abilities in the game. He also has access to unblockable. He has pretty much guaranteed crits. He has regeneration if he is awakened. He has the stasis pod, which can just straight up bypass like, you know, damage sources like the harvest, for example. If you time your like stasis pod perfectly, you just ignore the harvest and other forms of damage output, and when you do the pod activation, you gain immunity to like cold snap, incinerate, shock, and frostbite. You have like 4 immunities at your like just like at your command, which is so helpful and so powerful given that it is a 60-second energy protection buff, and he usually just needs 60 seconds to end the fight. You pair that with his A+ damage output, that is because of his near guaranteed crits and his very powerful fury buffs, and you just have this very, very strong champion whose only drawback is the fact that he really is a high risk character. The way he has to be played, which by the way, forgot to mention, he has access to taunt, which is really, really solid, but the way you want to play him is you can't parry, and you have to like really rely on either your good skill or like the opponent just like playing very aggressively, and sometimes it doesn't work out in your favor, and it makes Adam Warlock insanely dry and, dare I say, inconsistent. So while this champion at his best is like a top 5 cosmic, just like Hyperion, I feel like his inconsistencies is what puts him at number 8 for now, but I think he is still very good given his very strong utility kit, and if you can master this champion, he is well worth investing into. Now we have a champion that is kind of in that inconsistent category, but he has it a bit more put together. We have number 7, who is going to be Gladiator. He has an armor up counter, he has different damage sources, and he also counters miss and evade. So let's dissect Gladiator for a bit. What does this character do? He gains confidence as the fight grows on, and his confidence, it gives him like different abilities. One ability is to like do this burst damage on the opponent's special attack, and that can really, really ramp up and make him incredible for some specific fights. Additionally, he does have access to increased buff ability accuracy, countering some mystic defenders such as Rintra. He has access to incinerate and cold snap, which also counters evade. He has vigilance, which counters miss as well, and if he is awakened, while he has that vigilance active, he also gains true damage, which, like I said, is one of the most underrated and best abilities in the game, and he also does reduce the ability accuracy of armor ups by 100%, which is so good for different paths and Alliance War, and just general defenders as well. And so, as I am talking about this, I am now realizing why I put him at number 7, because yeah, he has a very big hit, and he just has an all-around, like, just well put together kit, I feel like, because he has different damage sources with the Cold Snap, the Incinerate, the burst damage on special attacks, and the burst damage when hitting into special attacks. He has access to miss and evade counters, and he also has access to intimidate. Now here's the thing, sometimes it doesn't work in your favor, but usually it does if you know how to play this champion correctly. I can make a Gladiator guide if y'all want to see it and like how to ramp him up properly, but it usually isn't as bad as say Hyperion or Adam Warlock, which is why I put him above those two, because he also has the utility and the damage output to match those characters. And yeah, he is just overall a very, very fun champion that has his uses in pretty much any game mode. Great for questing, designed for questing actually, great for Alliance War as well, especially Path 3, and he is just a character that once you like play him, you just feel so good about it. Like, it just feels so good to play him. And yeah, really fun rotation with like the special attack damage as well. Just a very awesome character that I really do appreciate. And while his utility isn't the most general, it definitely can be, because he has, you know, he counters some of the most basic like the most basic problems in this game, while also having niche counters to like armor up buffs, and just having some very good damage output as well that is incredibly satisfying to like, you know, watch it pay off. So yeah, Gladiator, I love him. Third favorite character in this game, and I think you should definitely try him out. He is an absolute blast, and he is pretty much good anywhere. And now we have number 6, who is Vox, who has a unique damage form, solid auto block and miss counters, and also immunities. He has the regular cosmic like power control immunities, but also poison immunity as well. And here's the thing about Vox. He has the most unique damage source, which is Degeneration, and in the Cosmic class, I'm pretty sure it's just him that has it. This is incredible, right? This lets him take so many different matchups that sometimes Cosmic characters couldn't take, because they either have basic DOT or they just have like raw yellow numbers. But Vox is one of the rare Cosmic characters that can extend beyond that with his Degeneration, and it makes him good for some matchups that really only he is good for in the Cosmic class. Additionally, he has access to corrupted buffs, which are buffs that like have increased ability accuracy, and he can gain Undermine and Vigilance buffs, which counters auto block and miss, which is insanely general and very, very useful. And yeah, I think the biggest takeaway of this champion is just the way that he does his damage, and the fact that like he is very hard to stop. I think that's the biggest thing about this champion actually. The fact that like his damage form is so rare, and like he is so easy to play and understand, it makes him so hard to stop. And this was proven in like Alliance War, when he was the go-to option when he was tactic for so many different matchups and so many different like boss fights even. And yeah, that like really proved his power to a lot of players in the higher up Alliance War tiers, and he's always been like a fan favorite for most players of like, you know, any type, but I think he is really starting to ramp up his value, and I feel like that isn't really stopping either, because as fights get harder and like as demands get higher, Vox can just like go in with his rare damage form and get the job done, while also having other Cosmic tropes like having access to an auto block and miss counter, but also having access to a ton of buffs. So yeah, very, very good champion for those reasons. But now we have the top 5, and this one might ruffle some feathers for sure, but I'm gonna give it to Venom. He is easy to play, has quick damage, and he has niche utility bits. So what does Venom do? Well, he does a lot of damage, right? And he does it very quickly. He has no ramp up, he just has his bleeds, he has his buffs that don't matter too much in like the grand scheme of things, but yeah, he just has like the fast access to those bleeds and those crits, and it adds up very quickly, and it takes down those short health pools like incredibly fast. and for that reason, he is like one of the better Battlegrounds champions in this game, and this list is like factoring that obviously, but it's also factoring other things as well, and I feel like those other things is what kind of drops him down a little bit, but not that much, since he is still a very strong questing champion, because he also has some niche utility. He is one of the only cosmic characters that can nullify on his SP1. He has access to a Spider-Verse evade counter. He has standard cosmic immunities, and like his bleeds can really fill some roles for like some specific nodes in questing. So yeah, overall he is a very solid champion, not just for Battlegrounds, but like for other pieces of content as well. But I don't see him too much in like Alliance War. I don't see him too much for like some long form content, and I feel like as the like act health pools get higher, maybe he falls off a little bit in that as well. But even then, like a rank 3 or like rank 4 Venom even is gonna just be like such a powerhouse damage wise, to where I don't think that health pool matters at that point, because he is just so good at dishing out that damage. It's really just like the utility request of some nodes that can stop him, but if those are met by Venom, yeah, he will just be an absolute machine. And alright, I'll be honest, I called an audible right here. I originally had a different champion at number 4, and they are now number 2. And for that reason, I brought Medusa down to 4. So let's talk about Medusa for a little bit, who is now number 4, was number 3 originally, but I moved her down a bit. Amazing all-around damage, robot killer, and strong general utility. Now, one of those things wasn't the case before her buff. I don't think she had strong general utility, but post-buff, this character is genuinely so strong. Her damage output is just comically good in those shorter matchups, but here's the thing, just like a certain character later on in this list, this champion is so good for any matchup now, like with any health pool. Good for long fights, good for those short fights, like incredibly strong for those short fights, man, let me tell ya, it's wild. Her armor shattered plus the SP2 just one shots anything in this game. It's like incredible, right? And now with her buff, she has easier access to like, you know, those bleeds, and she also has more utility. And the biggest utility addition was the fact that she now has true accuracy if she is awakened. So she now can counter evade and auto block. So that's incredible for like matchups like that you wouldn't even think to take with her. For example, Bullseye she could technically do now, but she is just so dang good with that true accuracy because it counters Red Skull, for example, who is a very annoying tech champion with auto block. She also does have access to those armor breaks still, obviously. So yeah, once again, good for Red Skull. And yeah, her armor break access is like the easiest in the game. And for that reason, that's why she is like so high up on this list. Because the stuff that she does, she has such easy access to it. And you pair that with like her incredible damage output, and you just have this champion that is so powerful post buff. And yeah, huge fan of this champion, one of my all-time favorites. And now we have this new champion that is kind of similar, and I'll be completely honest, 4 and 3 is a tie. These champions are tied. I see so many like Medusa versus Scream things. I'm not trying to tell you that Scream is better. I think that these places are pretty much similar, but I'll give the nod to Scream as it stands right now, given that there is just so much potential with this champion. And rather than like playing it safe and putting her somewhere lower, I'm gonna bet on Scream, and I'm gonna say that this champion will be a top 3 Cosmic 7-star. We just need to give her some more time. So her burst damage is just absolutely unreal, some of the fastest burst damage in the game, and it lets her take like so many different matchups, not even just in the tech class, but like outside of it too. She is so good for that reason. She also has like ways to bypass bleed immune champions, by getting like bonus armor breaks, which just like really enhances that SP2 damage. She also has, you know, a lot of buffs and debuffs. Her armor break count is like insane. Same thing with her bleed count. She just has like debuffs coming out of like all places, which that sounds so wrong, but it's just true, man. She has so many debuffs. And yeah, she has access to like Vicious, to Energize, which gives her more special attacks, which means more crazy damage output. She has access to Undermine, which lets her bypass like auto block, which is very, very helpful. And yeah, like that kind of is a part of her niche utility. She can also counter armor up effects passively, so no armor break or shattered needed. She can just straight up shut it down, like, you know, passively, which is really, really good, like if you have a max sig scream. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway of this champion is that her burst damage is just some of the best in this game. So yeah, Scream should be on your radar, should definitely like be in consideration for a top cosmic, because this girl's gonna make absolute waves in this game, if you ask me. And yeah, we'll just see how it turns out. But the audible I called was for this champion, number 2, Knull, the king of the symbiotes, the long form king, the most recoil friendly champion in this game somewhat. And his unique abilities plus general utility that just combines to make this absolutely overpowered and broken champion. So let's dissect Knull for a bit. What does he do? Well, he has access to the Living Abyss, which is one of the greatest ways to remove armor ups in this game, because it can bypass armor break immunity, and you just have to like have the ability to inflict the debuff to get rid of any armor up in this game. It is so powerful. He additionally has bleed and poison res, which makes him very resistant to the recoil masteries, which makes him incredibly sustainable for like questing and all that. And you pair that with his lifesteal, and you have one of the best questing champions in this game without a doubt. And it's not just like story questing, I'm talking about long form content, and I'm talking about Alliance War as well. This man with the Alliance War tactic was the most used tactic attacker in the game, I'm pretty sure anyway. He was banned all the time for that reason, because he was just that powerful and that strong. And I talk about long form content, but when he's like max sig and like properly invested into, this is one of the fastest Alliance War attackers in the game that can just get like any note down in such a short amount of time, since his damage output is that strong. This is one of the most broken cosmic characters in the game, and despite him like, you know, being more towards like Alliance War and long form, he can still put up incredible battlegrounds times if he is properly invested into. You pair that with his good base utility of having access to armor break and true accuracy, as well as bleed, and some of the best power control, not just in the cosmic class, but just in the game. You have an absolute monster of a character that I have zero regrets calling the number 2 cosmic in this game, because he is genuinely just that good. And he's proven it, especially as of recent with like the Alliance War tactic involving him, and like a long form content being the main thing for questing, and him just being genuinely insane for it. So yeah, Knull, easily number 2, king of the symbiotes for a reason. But now we have number 1, which you could have guessed from like a mile away. It's the Serpent. He is the greatest dual threat champion in this game. Great for long form, utility machine, simple as that. I didn't factor in defense that much, but when you're the best defender in the game, it has to be a factor. If you're a free-to-play player that wants to play Battlegrounds, it starts with this champion. You get this character, you max him out, you now have the ability to either 1, have a Serpent to draft and win you rounds, or 2, the opponent only has 2 ban slots because 1 is guaranteed being used on this character. Additionally, talking about free to play and like progressing players, he is one of the best questers in the game. He has access to an onslaught of utility while also having some very good fail safes. For example, his death immunity is very, very powerful if you mess up and you need a regen and you need like some immortality and you don't want to play Herc for some reason. So yeah, this man is a very good quester. His death immunity is powerful on defense and attack. And yeah, he has access to True Focus, which lets him bypass miss and evade. He has access to Unblockable, which is really helpful. He has access to Fear, which shuts off any unblockable in this game, which is a really, really strong ability to have, since unblockable is incredibly annoying. He has access to Cold Snap damage, to passive energy burst damage that increases with the opponent's armor rating, so he is good for any armor up matchup. He then has access to, let's see, passive power gain, which is really helpful, and he also has access to like some ways of manipulating like power burn and other power control effects. He has bleed resistance, he has Cold Snap immunity. Just a very well-rounded utility machine. He also can reduce the potency of instant damaging effects by up to 60%. He also can do the same thing with the critical penetration of champions, which makes him insanely tanky and a very safe champion to play for quests, and especially long form content when he has his Furies built up and he just dishes out some disgusting damage output, which is why he is so high up on this list, because as the health pools get higher, this champion gets stronger, and the health pools are doing anything but getting lower, right? So yeah, these reasons are why he is so high up on this list. And you pair it with the value that this champion has in Battlegrounds and Alliance War, and just for a player overall when it comes to building your roster for those competitive aspects of the game, and just for general questing as well. And you have the best Cosmic 7-star in the game. So yeah, Serpent, pretty straightforward. Pretty easy to explain why he is the best Cosmic 7-star in this game. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this top 10. Did I make any mistakes? I obviously probably did. It's my first one in a very long time, but I hope that y'all like it. I hope that it helped you out. And let's get to 16k, man. We are pretty much almost there. So yeah, we are just gonna keep the ball rolling as 2025 continues. And yeah, that's about it for me.